As the global population ages, one of the most pressing and heartbreaking public health concerns is the rising prevalence of cognitive decline and dementia. Memory loss, impaired judgment, and reduced mental agility are often seen as natural parts of aging, but emerging research reveals a disturbing and modifiable contributor to this decline: obesity. Higher levels of body fat in older adults are not only linked to heart disease and diabetes, they are now strongly associated with diminished brain health. Obesity in late life significantly increases the risk of cognitive impairment, Alzheimer's disease, and other forms of dementia, often accelerating the rate at which the brain ages and loses function. At the center of this connection lies chronic, low-grade inflammation. Excess fat, especially visceral fat around the abdomen, acts like an endocrine organ, secreting inflammatory compounds that travel throughout the body, including the brain. These inflammatory molecules can cross the blood-brain barrier, where they trigger immune responses in neural tissue, impair synaptic function, and promote the death of brain cells. This smoldering neuroinflammation undermines memory, weakens attention, and accelerates cognitive aging, even in people who are otherwise free of traditional neurological diseases. Another mechanism linking obesity to cognitive decline is insulin resistance, a condition that becomes more common with age and excess fat. The brain relies heavily on insulin to regulate energy metabolism and neurotransmitter function. When insulin signaling is impaired, as it is in people with obesity, the brain struggles to process glucose efficiently. This energy deficit compromises neural function and connectivity, especially in regions tied to memory and executive function, like the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex. Over time, this metabolic dysfunction can lead to structural brain changes, including reduced gray matter volume and white matter integrity, markers strongly linked to Alzheimer's disease. Furthermore, obesity increases the risk of cerebrovascular problems, strokes, microbleeds, and restricted blood flow to the brain, which impair oxygen and nutrient delivery to brain tissue. Even small disruptions in cerebral blood flow can contribute to subtle cognitive changes that worsen over time. For older adults already dealing with natural age-related brain changes, obesity can add a layer of vascular damage that tips them over into clinical impairment. Sleep disturbance, another common problem in obesity, compounds the risk. Conditions like obstructive sleep apnea, often underdiagnosed in older adults, lead to repeated oxygen deprivation during the night, interrupting the brain's ability to clean itself of metabolic waste, including amyloid beta plaques associated with Alzheimer's. Sleep fragmentation also hinders memory consolidation, emotional regulation, and overall cognitive resilience. And then there is the psychological dimension. Obesity in older age is often accompanied by lower physical activity, social withdrawal, depression, or loss of independence, all of which are independent risk factors for cognitive decline. When mental stimulation and movement decrease, the brain receives less sensory input, less blood flow, and fewer opportunities to build new neural connections. In this way, obesity not only harms the brain directly through inflammation and metabolism, but also indirectly through lifestyle degradation and emotional isolation. What makes this especially alarming is how quietly it can unfold. Older adults may not immediately notice subtle memory lapses or slower thinking speed. But these early changes, when paired with high body fat, should not be dismissed as harmless. They are often early signs of an underlying biological process that can accelerate if left unchecked. Unfortunately, many older adults and even healthcare providers fail to connect the dots between body weight and brain health, focusing only on cardiovascular or orthopedic risks. But the brain, too, is vulnerable, and it is often the organ that suffers most dramatically and irreversibly. Yet despite the seriousness of this link, there is also hope. Cognitive decline related to obesity is not a fixed destiny. The brain is highly plastic, even in older age, and many of the mechanisms that promote decline can be slowed or reversed through targeted lifestyle changes. Losing excess weight, especially abdominal fat, can reduce inflammatory load and improve insulin sensitivity, both of which support clearer thinking and better memory function. Regular physical activity, especially aerobic exercise, increases blood flow to the brain, boosts the production of neurotrophic factors like BDNF, which supports neural growth, and improves sleep quality. Even light exercise like walking can deliver significant cognitive benefits over time. Diet is equally critical. Anti-inflammatory, antioxidant-rich diets, like the Mediterranean or Mind diet, have been shown to preserve cognitive function and delay the onset of dementia. These eating patterns emphasize whole fruits, vegetables, leafy greens, fatty fish, nuts, and olive oil, while minimizing processed foods, refined sugar, and trans fats, all of which are associated with faster cognitive decline. Mental stimulation also matters. Activities that challenge the brain, learning a new skill, socializing regularly, solving puzzles, or reading can help maintain neural connections and delay decline. But for these cognitive efforts to be truly effective, they must be supported by a healthy metabolic and physical foundation. That means addressing obesity not just as a matter of physical health, but as a central issue in cognitive aging. In conclusion, obesity in older adults is not simply a matter of extra weight. It is a neurobiological burden that quietly accelerates brain aging and increases the risk of dementia. It triggers inflammation, impairs metabolism, disrupts sleep, damages blood vessels, and leads to cognitive deterioration that may not be reversible once established. But with awareness and action, much of this risk can be prevented or slowed. Protecting brain health in later life requires more than crossword puzzles or supplements. It demands a comprehensive, whole-body approach that includes managing weight, moving consistently, eating wisely, and preserving emotional and social vitality. The mind and body do not age separately, and the path to mental clarity in old age begins with addressing the hidden, metabolic threats that obesity brings.